In my 80 years wandering this world, I've come to see that the sharpest blade isn't the one you hold. It's the unspoken word that cuts deepest from within. My name is Elias Cohen, and I was born in the dusty streets of Haifa, Israel, back in 1947, right after the land breathed free again. But it was in Brooklyn, where my family washed up like so many others, fleeing the old world's shadows, that I truly learned the weight of silence. We were survivors, my parents whispering tales of pogroms in Russia over Shabbat candles that flickered like fragile hopes. I grew up at a table where words were rationed like bread, said too freely, and they could summon trouble, held back too long, and they turned to poison in the soul. Oh, the pain of it still lingers like a stone in my chest. I watched my father, a tailor like so many of us, bend under regrets he never voiced. He carried secrets from the old country, betrayals, losses, truths about family that could shatter a home if spoken aloud. One night, when I was just a boy, I found him by the window, staring at the Brooklyn lights, tears tracing lines down his weathered face. He never explained, but I felt it. Those hidden things had eaten him hollow, year after year, until his health faded like a candle snuffed too soon. That image haunts me, a reminder that what we bury doesn't die. It festers, waiting to break us. What I share today isn't the polished wisdom from books or synagogues. No, it's something rawer, a collection of 12 secrets passed down in whispers through Jewish families like mine, guarded fiercer than the Torah scrolls. These aren't rules to follow blindly. They're truths that can save your life or unravel it thread by thread. I uncovered them slowly, piecing together stories from my years as a listener in community gatherings, from Haifa markets to Brooklyn basements. And let me tell you, they shook me to my core. What I believed about family, regret, and the human heart, it all flipped upside down. This isn't gentle advice. It's a harsh light that reveals the shadows we've all ignored, the kind that heals only after it hurts. Picture this. A man named Isaac, born in Odessa, that old Russian port city, where the sea air carried dreams and dangers alike. He was a simple tailor like my father, who emigrated to America in the 1970s, chasing the promise of streets paved with opportunity. Isaac worked his fingers raw in a little shop in Queens, building a family, a home, even a bit of wealth. To the world, he had it all. Steady hands, a warm table, respect from his minyan at the local shul. But beneath that success, something gnawed at him, a riddle wrapped in silence. Why did his life, so carefully stitched, start coming apart at the seams? One buried secret, ignored for decades, pulled the first thread, and soon the whole fabric tore. Isaac's story is the key to these 12 truths, and as I unravel it, you'll see echoes of your own unspoken weights. Have you ever paused, in the quiet of your own home, feeling that tug in your gut, the sense that life's rules don't add up, that holding back a truth to keep the peace only breeds more storms, or that the kindness you offer sometimes feels like a chain, not a gift? If you've nodded yes to any of that, if you've lain awake wondering why good intentions lead to empty rooms, then lean in close. This is for you, the ones tired of surface-level fixes, seeking the deeper why behind the ache. Let me take you back to my boyhood in Brooklyn, around our Sabbath table, heavy with challah, and stories half told. My mother would light the candles, murmuring the blessing, and in that glow she'd share a small parable from the Talmud. Not the grand lessons, but the quiet ones about words like birds. Once they fly free, you can't call them back. I remember one evening overhearing her counsel my Uncle Aaron, who had lost his job and his spark from keeping a family grudge locked inside. "Speak it small," she said, "before it grows into a storm." He didn't listen at first, and it cost him. Friends drifted, joy faded. But when he finally whispered his hurt during a simple prayer, like Modehani at dawn, thanking for the light of truth, things shifted. Not magically, but real. That paradox stuck with me. Silence can protect, yet it often imprisons. And in Isaac's case, his early days in America seemed blessed by just that restraint. No complaints at the shop, no family arguments aired. He thrived, or so it appeared. But here's the hook that pulls you in. What if that very silence was the first secret's trap, the one that whispered, "The enemy without a sword sits at your own table"? It's the lie you tell yourself every morning. Now, let's step into this riddle of Isaac's life, layer by layer, as I did when I first heard his full story from an old friend in the Brooklyn community, a tailor himself who knew Isaac from the early days in Queens. You see, these 12 secrets aren't scattered like loose threads. They're woven tight, each one pulling on the next. We'll start at the surface with the truths we all nod to, the ones passed around like warm challah at the table. But as we go deeper, you'll feel the turns, the moments that make you pause and wonder about your own quiet burdens. The first of these hidden truths, the one families like mine whisper to keep the peace, is simple. Hold your tongue when the storm brews. Speak too soon, and you invite chaos into your home. Stay silent, and harmony holds. It's a lesson straight from the old ways, like the Talmud teaching that a soft answer turns away wrath. Let me tell you about David, a cousin of my father's from Haifa days, who lived by this in the tough years after the war. David was a fisherman out on the Galilee with nets heavy as regrets. His wife, Rachel, had a sharp tongue. Arguments would flare over small things, like a missed prayer or a late return from the water. But David learned early. He swallowed his words, nodding through the heat, letting silence act like a cool breeze. Over time, it worked wonders. The fights faded, their home became a haven, and even their business grew. Tourists came for the fish, drawn to the calm aura around them. David rose in the local minyan, respected for his steady presence, the man who never stirred the pot. By holding back, he built a life others envied, a family intact, a table always set for guests, peace that felt like a blessing from above. It's the kind of wisdom that seems ironclad, isn't it? Keep quiet, and life rewards you with stability. But here's where the first twist creeps in, like a shadow lengthening at dusk. I beg you don't ignore this, because what if that silence isn't a shield, but a slow-building wall? In David's later years, after the children left for America, I visited him back in Haifa. His eyes, once bright, had dulled. His hands trembled not from age, but from the weight of unsaid things piling up like stones in his heart. That restraint, so praised, had bred a quiet resentment. Rachel sensed it, pulled away, and their golden years turned hollow. David confessed to me one evening over tea as the sun dipped into the sea. "Elias, I thought I was protecting us, but I was just trapping myself." Poverty starts not in the wallet, but in an empty soul, you see. And for Isaac? In those first American years, he lived this truth to the letter. No gripes about the long hours in the shop, no airing of family strains from the Odessa days. His business bloomed, suits tailored for weddings, bar mitzvahs, even a little savings tucked away. Folks in the Queen's Shul called him the Rock, the silent provider. Yet, as his friend later shared, that very quiet was the seed of something darker, a resentment festering unseen. Building on that, the second truth deepens the puzzle. Silence must be chosen freely, not worn like a forced yoke. It's not enough to hold back. You have to know when to let a small word slip, like a drop of water wearing down stone over time. This comes from our traditions too. Think of the Sabbath, where we rest not in exhaustion, but in deliberate peace, choosing what to set aside. Sarah, a woman I knew well from Brooklyn, embodied this. She was a baker, her hands dusted with flour like fresh snow, running a shop near the old synagogue. Her marriage to Isaac's distant kin, another Isaac, but same struggles, was fraying from her husband's wanderings, rumors of debts hidden like crumbs under the counter. Sarah could have exploded, shouted it out in the market, shaming him publicly. Instead, she chose her moments. During a quiet seder, after the wine and questions, she whispered her fears to him, alone. Not an accusation, but a gentle prod. Why do we build walls when we could share the load? It wasn't easy. Her voice shook like a leaf in the wind. But that chosen silence, broken at the right hour, mended things. He confessed his worries, they reworked the debts together, and their shop not only survived, but thrived, customers drawn to the warmth that radiated from their renewed bond. Sarah often said, "A word, spoken true, is like a bird set free. It circles back with gifts." By selecting when to speak, she turned potential ruin into quiet strength, a family woven tighter than before. Yet, the turn here hits harder, doesn't it? What if that choice isn't always ours to make? Believe my experience on this one. Sometimes the deepest silences are born from chains we don't see. For Sarah, it worked because her heart was open, but pushed too far, and the unspoken becomes a stranger in your own house. And tying back to our Isaac from Odessa, that childhood betrayal I hinted at earlier, it was no small slight. As a boy in Russia during those harsh winters when food was scarce, Isaac had promised his younger brother they'd escape together, stick like glue, share every crust. But when the chance came to board the ship to America, fear gripped him. He left the boy behind, telling himself it was for the best, a silence to protect his own path. He never spoke of it, burying it deep as he stitched seams in Queens. That forced quiet propelled his success. No distractions, just grind. But oh, the twist! It echoed in his marriage, his friendships, making him distant, like a man talking around a ghost. Have you ever wondered, what if your greatest virtue, your steadfast silence, is actually your deepest fear in disguise? It gnaws, waiting to unravel everything. Now we peel to the third layer, where it gets truly personal. The secret isn't in what you hide, but in the why behind it. Actions alone don't define us. It's the motive, the hidden spring in the soul, that colors everything. From the Torah's stories of Jacob wrestling his angels, we learn motives can twist even good deeds into burdens. Take Chaim, a merchant I counseled in the Brooklyn markets years ago. He was generosity itself, donating to the shul, feeding strangers at his door, always the first to offer a hand. Folks praised him as a tzaddik, a righteous one, and his warehouse prospered, shelves full, as his heart seemed to be. But privately, over cups of strong tea after prayers, Chaim unburdened to me. Those acts weren't from pure joy, but from a dark well, guilt over a wartime lie back in Poland when he traded a neighbor's secret for safety. Every gift he gave was a payment, not a blessing, chaining him to that shadow. It wore him down. His family felt the strain, the love tainted by unspoken debt. Only when he faced the why, confessing in a quiet minyan, not for absolution but understanding, did the weight lift. His business held, but more importantly, his spirit breathed free, motives aligning like stars at dawn. The shock of this one lingers, my friends, because it demands we look inward without mercy. I tell you this story because it mirrors so many I've witnessed. And for Isaac, here's the revelation that stopped me cold when I learned it. That loyalty he wore like a badge, providing for his American family without complaint, wasn't born of devotion. No, it stemmed from shame, that abandoned brother from Odessa, whose letters stopped coming years ago. Isaac had searched quietly, found out the boy perished in the old country, and the guilt twisted every stitch he made. He gave endlessly, but from a place of atonement, not love, turning his home into a shrine of obligation. He admitted it all, in the end, to a circle of elders. I thought silence would bury it, but it just fed the beast inside. But this was still just the surface of his unraveling. Deeper secrets waited, pulling harder on the threads. We've touched the roots of Isaac's silence now, the shame that twisted his gifts into chains. But the real unraveling, the part that gripped me when I pieced it all together, lies in the hidden laws beneath. These aren't the everyday cautions. They're the paradoxes that turn life on its head, the truths our ancestors guarded in hushed tones during long nights in the shtetls or under Brooklyn street lamps. Like the Talmud's riddles, they demand you wrestle with them, emerging changed. I'll share two of the deeper ones here, drawn from stories that scarred me as much as they healed. And as we go, watch how they snag on Isaac's thread, pulling more secrets loose. The fourth hidden law, one that hits like a wave crashing unexpected, is this: to claim true freedom, you must first surrender the grip of control. Confess the unconfessable, even when it strips you bare. It's counter to everything we chase: the steady job, the secure home, the illusion that holding tight keeps the world steady. But in our ways, it's echoed in the blowing of the shofar at Rosh Hashanah, a blast that shatters complacency, calling us to release what we've clutched too long. Let me walk you through Aaron's tale, a man I knew from my early days counseling in a small Brooklyn shul, though his roots stretched back to the Russian steppes. Aaron was a builder, strong-shouldered and sure, who left the cold fields of near Kyiv for America in the 50s, hammer in hand, and dreams of towers scraping the sky. He poured himself into work, houses for families, synagogues with sturdy walls, always the provider, never admitting a crack in his foundation. Success came, contracts flowed, his name whispered with respect at the minyan. But envy simmered unspoken, a green flame toward his brother back home, who stayed and inherited the family plot, living free while Aaron slaved abroad. Aaron buried it, telling himself control meant silence, provision without plea. Then tragedy struck. A deal soured, his savings vanished in a bad partnership, and his health cracked, nights of pain that no doctor could mend. He lost the house, the business, even the warmth at his table. His wife left, whispering he was a stranger, walled off by his own hands. Rock bottom came when Yom Kippur Eve, as the community gathered for Kol Nidre, the prayer that annuls vows too heavy to bear. Aaron, alone in the dim sanctuary, lit a single candle, not the grand ones, but a quiet yahrzeit flame for his losses. In that glow, he confessed to himself first, then to a trusted elder. The envy that had poisoned every nail he drove, driving him to overwork as punishment, to push partners away in fear they'd see his weakness. "I thought control would save me," he said, voice breaking like thunder after silence. But it was the cage. Releasing it didn't bring back the fortune overnight. No miracles here. But it freed him. He started small, rebuilding with honest talks, sharing the load in a new venture. Partnerships formed from trust, not force. His home filled again, not with wealth, but with people who saw the real man. Aaron lived his last years lighter, teaching at the shul. Lose the illusion, and you find what's worth holding. It's a law that purges, turning loss into the soil for something real. But that wasn't the bottom of Aaron's story, or ours. I dug deeper, as I often do in these unravelings, and found what no one expected. The envy wasn't just his. It traced back to a family vow broken generations ago, a secret of inheritance hidden to protect the line. It echoed through bloodlines like a whisper in the wind. And for Isaac? This law struck him sideways. His shop in Queens had peaked, suits lining the racks like promises kept, but that shame over his brother fueled a quiet envy of those who emigrated whole, families unbroken. He confessed it once in a fleeting moment to his wife, but pulled back, clinging to control. The twist? It cost him a key client, a friend who sensed the distance and walked away. One thread pulled, and the envy spread, unraveling deals, trust, until his world teetered. I urge you, listen close. These laws don't whisper, they roar if ignored. Pressing further, the fifth hidden law cuts even sharper into the soul. The gravest sin isn't the deed itself, but snuffing your own life's fire to atone for shadows long past. We think redemption means sacrifice, giving up joys, piling on duties to balance the scales. But that's the trap, denying the spark God placed in you, like hiding a candle under a bushel. Our traditions warn of this in stories of prophets who fled their call, only to find peace in embracing it. Rachel's life, one I witnessed up close as a community listener in Haifa during my visits home, shows this raw. Rachel grew up in a modest home near the Carmel markets, daughter of survivors who carried the weight of the Holocaust like invisible yokes. She married young to David, a teacher, and they built a life, children, laughter around the Sabbath table, her paintings adorning the walls, colors alive as her spirit. But a shadow lingered. In her youth, during the tense 60s, she'd turned away a distant cousin seeking help, fear of authorities closing her door. Guilt bloomed, a weed in the garden. She atoned by dimming herself, quitting her art. For endless chores, volunteering at the shul until exhaustion claimed her days, telling herself this was justice. David pleaded, the kids drifted, sensing her absence even at the table. Her fire faded, depressions came like winter fogs off the sea, her once vibrant eyes dull as forgotten canvases. The breaking point arrived during a Yom Kippur service, the air thick with prayers of atonement. As the congregation swayed, Rachel slipped out to the courtyard, the shofar's echo fading. There, under stars like scattered diamonds, she faced it, not by more sacrifice, but by reclaiming. She picked up a brush that night, painting not apologies, but her truths. The fear that birthed the sin, the joy she'd starved. It poured out, exhibits in local galleries, stories shared at women's circles, her voice steady as she owned the past without letting it devour the now. David returned closer, the family healed around her light. Rachel passed years later with brushes in hand, whispering to me, "The sin was denying my flame. Lighting it freed us all." This law demands courage to live fully, shadows and all, lest atonement becomes self-burial. The shock of Rachel's turn shook me deepest, because I lived a piece of it myself, counseling men like Isaac, who visited graves not of loved ones, but of those they hated, seeking silent forgiveness in the dead of night. He admitted he'd secretly gone to a cemetery in upstate New York, standing over a stone for a rival tailor whose success stung his envy, whispering words he'd never voiced in life. It wasn't closure, it was another layer of denial, snuffing his own dreams to pay an endless debt. That revelation cracked his world wider. His wife confronted the distance, business partners pulled back, and suddenly the 12 secrets loomed larger, demanding he face not just the past, but the fire he'd let die. But even this wasn't the end. Deeper still, connections waited, tying Isaac's losses to laws we haven't named yet. Those layers we just peeled back, Isaac's envy, his self-denial. They're not isolated knots, but parts of a greater weave, the 12 secrets interlocking like the fringes of a tallit. That prayer shawl we wrap around ourselves in the shul, each thread a reminder of duties unseen. As I sat with his story, piecing it from letters, confessions from his circle, and my own reflections over years of listening to souls like his, a picture emerged. Not a tidy one, but a profound shift that explained why Isaac's life, so meticulously built, crumbled not from one flaw, but from the chorus of all 12 truths ignored. You see, it wasn't just the silence that trapped him, or the motives twisted by shame, or the envy that eroded his steps, or the fire he let gutter out. No, the central riddle of Isaac's unraveling was simpler and far more terrifying. These secrets form a chain, and denying even one links you to the others, building a false self that buckles under its own weight. From Odessa's shadows to Queens's bustle, Isaac chased control, silent provision, generous atonement, controlled releases of truth, all to bury that boyhood abandonment. But each secret pulled the next. His silence bred resentment, the first, which masked fear, the third, fueling envy toward freer lives, the fourth, until he sacrificed his joys to atone, the fifth, and on it rippled, hidden grudges and family ties, unspoken rivalries at work, even the quiet betrayals of friends who sensed his walls. By the time his shop faltered, debts mounted, and his daughter distanced herself, whispering she felt like a stranger at her own table, it was clear the 12 weren't separate lessons, but mirrors reflecting one unbreakable law. We can't outrun our shadows by hiding them. They multiply in the dark. I remember the moment it clicked for me during a quiet Hanukkah gathering in Brooklyn, candles burning steady against the winter chill. An old friend, knowing Isaac's tale, shared a Talmudic image. A word is like a bird. Once flown, it can't return, but if caged too long, it pecks at your peace. Isaac had caged them all, and the pecking grew to a storm. His business didn't fail from bad luck. It starved from the isolation those secrets bred. Partners who left because trust evaporated, families strained by the unspoken voids. Even his health waned, doctors puzzled by a heart heavy as lead. And here's the synthesis that shook me. It wasn't money or kindness or guilt at the core. It was the terror of vulnerability, the fear that voicing these truths would shatter the life he'd stitched. But in facing them, piecemeal, through talks with elders and solitary walks by the East River, Isaac began to mend. Not perfectly, scars remain, but real. The chain loosened when he named the links, turning burden to bridge. Now, I won't leave you hanging in that weight. Our traditions offer tools, simple as a prayer, to carry this forward. Here's a practical ritual, born from what I've seen work in lives like yours. Busy with work, family, the daily grind, yet aching for depth. Call it the shadow conversation, a quiet practice to face one secret at a time without overwhelm. Each evening before the world quiets, maybe after the kids are down or the dishes cleared, find a mirror in a soft-lit room. Light a single candle, like the Shabbat ones that welcome peace, its flame a nod to the light we all carry inside. Gaze at your reflection, not to judge, but to meet yourself as an old friend. Whisper one hidden thought aloud, just one from the day's whispers or a deeper pull. Today I held back because, or this envy I feel stems from. No rush. Let it flow like a confession in the still hours of Yom Kippur, honest but kind. Then release it. Blow out the candle gently, imagining the shadow as a bird taking wing, free and no longer caged in you. Speak a simple gratitude, Modeh Ani style. Thank you for this truth, however it stings. Do this weekly, not daily, building like drops shaping stone. I've guided many through it, men like Isaac, women with their own chains, and it shifts things. Clarity creeps in, relationships warm, that inner stone lightens. It's no quick fix, but a steady path, respecting your pace in this fast American life. Believe my experience. This ritual doesn't erase the secrets, it integrates them, turning poison to wisdom. And yet, even in this synthesis, a quiet turn lingers. I beg you, don't underestimate how one small step, like that candle's glow, can illuminate the whole chain. Isaac found glimmers of it too, but the full light? That waits in the heart of what these 12 truly guard. And now, my friends, we arrive at the heart of it all, the master secret that binds these 12 truths into one unbreakable thread, not as a list of do's and don'ts, but as the deep law of the human soul. Life's greatest chain is the stories we bury within ourselves. True freedom blooms only when we voice them, even if it shatters the fragile piece we've clung to like a worn talent. It's not about spilling every secret to the world, no, that's folly, but about breaking the internal cage, naming the shadows to let light pierce through. These 12 aren't random warnings, they're facets of this law, each a reflection of how denial multiplies our burdens. Isaac's silence chained his shame to envy, his envy to self-denial, his denial to isolation, rippling out to touch every corner. Family, work, health, until the weight proved too much. But in the quiet confessions he finally made, first to himself by the river, then to those he loved, the chain didn't snap. It transformed, becoming a ladder to climb out of the pit. This law echoes through our heritage like Jacob wrestling the angel in the dark of night, not fleeing the struggle, but grappling until dawn breaks, emerging limping but blessed with a new name, a new strength. Isaac, in his later days, embodied that wrestle. After the shop closed, debts pressing like stones, he gathered his daughter and wife around a simple table. No grand seder, just tea and truth. He voiced the Odessa abandonment, the guilt that colored every gift, the envy that stole his joys. Tears flowed, hurts aired like birds finally freed, and though scars remained, the business gone, trust slow to rebuild, something vital returned. His home warmed, laughter crept back, tentative as spring. He even mentored young tailors at the community center, sharing not advice, but his own stumbles, turning pain into purpose. The 12 secrets, once his undoing, became his map, silence when needed, but voiced motives, released envies, reclaimed fires, all weaving into authenticity that no loss could fully dim. What do we take from this, you and I, sitting here in the quiet of our own lives? Hope, that's what. The kind forged in the fire of honesty, not despite the pain, but through it. Don't run from your demons, those buried stories whispering in the night. Stare them down. Embrace your shadow as Jacob did his adversary, and watch how it yields to ally. This rawness, painful as a thorn in the flesh, builds the real wealth. Relationships that endure, a spirit unbowed, peace that comes from within, not imposed. I know it firsthand. My father's regrets taught me early, but in voicing my own shadows over decades, from Haifa memories to Brooklyn nights, I found liberation. You can too. These truths aren't curses, but invitations to live fuller, shadows and all. If this journey through Isaac's riddle and these 12 secrets has stirred something in your heart, maybe a nod to your own unspoken weights, please share it with someone who might need the light. Drop a word in the comments below. Which twist or revelation hit you hardest, the one that made you pause? And if you're hungry for more unravelings of the soul's deepest knots, hit that subscribe button. Let's walk this path together, one truth at a time. Guard your spirits gently. Remember, true wealth lies in the courage to be raw with yourself, even when the honesty aches. Shalom, and may your candles burn bright.